Hello, beautiful people. Happy Friday. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm actually recording this on the solstice, using the powerful energies that are present for us on this super astrologically busy day. However, I'm going to be releasing this on Friday, so this is when you are watching this, and this is my astrological forecast for next week, and mostly focused on the full moon in Cancer, which we will be experiencing on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending where you are in the world. As usual, I'm going to name all the main aspects that are taking place next week. And of course, all of them are going to be present for the lunation. So that's where we're going to try to weave the themes together and also look at what was going on during the new moon in Cancer that took place in July. So let's just dive in because there is a lot happening. As I mentioned today when I'm recording this is solstice and there is a ton of things happening. Of course, the main one to mention is the Venus opposition to Uranus. And it's interesting that these oppositions to Uranus are happening on such a profoundly important days because the opposition from Mars to Uranus, Mars the ruler of North Node, Venus the ruler of South Node, so we can see why this is important. And of course Uranus, the upcoming ruler of Pluto in Aquarius. Mars's opposition to Uranus took place on 11/11. Very important date. Today, 21st of 12, solstice. Today is the gateway into the new season. It's a very powerful day, astrologically, naturally, even if you just follow the natural cycles that are happening in the nature. So this is for me very important thing to pay attention to. And of course, apart from that, we are having the second sextile between Mercury and Saturn. I'm talking about the solstice day. Of course, by the time you're watching this on Friday, this will have already taken place. And Thursday night, Friday morning, again, depending where you are in the world, Sun is moving into the sign of Capricorn. So by the time you are watching this, we are fully entered in Capricorn season. Sun is already in Capricorn. And on Friday, Mercury will actually make a conjunction to Sun on a 22/12 conjunction to Sun on a 0 degrees and 39 minutes of Capricorn, and this is Mercury retrograde because as we know Mercury is just about to go back into Sagittarius literally on the 23rd. So that's what we start in the weekend with, is Mercury moving back into the sign of Sagittarius, has some more reevaluation there to do. However, as I mentioned just before that take place, today when you're watching this, Mercury is going to conjunct Sun, and this is going to hopefully help us understand something, because when Mercury conjunct Sun, there is this point which is called Kazimi, the illumination, and we might get downloads and understandings, and we might have a clarity with regards to what is the definition that we are holding on to that is potentially not working for us anymore, which will be also highlighted by the full moon in Cancer, full moon illumination. So okay, on Sunday, we end in the week, beginning a new week with moon moving into the sign of Gemini, polarity, duality, what is the choice that you're going to make. And as I mentioned in my last video, for me it's very fascinating that we are entering holiday season, Christmas, with moon in a sign of Gemini, and will be ending this year and starting the new one with moon in a sign of Virgo, both through my Mercury. Mercury at the moment retrograde, and Mercury is going to be entering the 1st of January in a retrograde mode, because that's when it's going to station direct. So apart from moon moving into a sign of Gemini on Sunday, we also have Sun sextile to Saturn. This is of course something that's been going on with every single planet that move into the sign of Capricorn, because Saturn at the moment is in the sign of Pisces, but important to mention that Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, so currently Saturn is the ruler of the Sun. As you're watching this throughout this Capricorn season, which will end on the 20th of January, right after Pluto-Sun conjunction, after which Sun will move into the sign of Aquarius. So Monday is a very important day because we have the ruler of the North Node, aka Mars, making a trine to North Node. We know that this was already kind of present during the new moon in Sagittarius, which was the last lunation, and North Node made an exact trine to the new moon in Sagittarius, and there was an exact trine between Sun and North Node. That took place a few days after that, and now Mars is making an exact trine to the North Node on Monday the 25th, on the Christmas day. On the same day, Venus, the ruler of the South Node, is trining Neptune. So isn't this interesting? Mars as the ruler of the North Node, obviously at this stage still in the sign of Sagittarius, this new direction, the new adventure, this widening of our horizon, have to shift perspective, making a trine to the North Node. On the same day, Venus, the ruler of the South Node, what is something that we need to potentially let go of, dissolve, because South Node is the resolution to Pluto square, right? Still is until, January, when Pluto moves into the sign of Aquarius. So Venus making a trine to Neptune in Pisces, it's supporting us in this process of letting go of these aspects of our past conditioning that came from the other, that is not you, that told you that this is the story that you have to be reliving. Even though Venus is not yet in the sign of Sagittarius, but she will be moving then at the end of the week. So we get to that. So Monday, very important day. We have ruler of the North Node making a trine to the North Node that he's the ruler of, and Venus, the ruler of the South Node, making a trine to Neptune, and Venus in a sign of Scorpio is being ruled by Pluto, of course. So on Tuesday, we have Moon moving into the sign of Cancer, and of course, this is leading up towards the full moon in Cancer, which we're gonna dive deep into, and that is happening Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, as I mentioned. And then on Wednesday, we have Chiron stationing direct after the full moon in Cancer. Chiron is going to station direct in Aries on 15 degrees 27 minutes. Just to remind everyone, Chiron did station retrograde on 23rd of July this year, which was, interestingly enough, after the new moon in Cancer, right? And it was right after the first square between Pluto and the nose, the first exact square, because as we know, Pluto has been squaring the nose this entire year, but that was the first exact hit. Exact square happened on 23rd of July this year, and right after Chiron station retrograde. So Chiron is stationing direct right after a full moon in Cancer, which is why this full moon is important to pay attention to. On the same day, because Venus Wednesday is an incredibly busy day, we have Mercury making his second square to Neptune. The first square between Mercury and Neptune happened on a full moon in Gemini, ruled by Mercury, and now we have the second square. Mercury is retrograde. By this stage, Mercury is back in the sign of Sagittarius, making a square to Neptune. Again, what is being challenged with regards to the stories we attach to that we might have to let go of in order to move forward into feeling that you are in a charge of your life. So the third square, there will be one more. Third square will be taking place on January 8th. So just before the new moon in Capricorn in January, which will be the first new moon of the 2024 and also the last new moon of 2024. Again, interesting anomaly to pay attention to, because this year, 2023, we had no new moon in Capricorn. We started the year with the new moon in Aquarius. That was the first new moon of 2023, the year that we just ended. And then also on Wednesday, same day, Sun is going to make an exact trine to Jupiter. Jupiter is in Taurus at this stage, still retrograde for another few days. And this is, of course, something that's going to be, all of these aspects are going to be present for the full moon. So Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Mercury will conjunct Mars on the 24 degrees, 22 minutes. And the last time the two, and of course Mercury being retrograde, conjunct Mars, still in sign of Sagittarius, the last time the two had a conjunction was day after the eclipse on October 29th in the sign of Scorpio, after the last eclipse in Taurus, which took place on 28th of October. So interesting, right? Now Mercury being in Sagittarius, it's helping us, like there is a conjunction between him and Mars. Mars, of course, the ruler of the North Node, traditional rule of Scorpio as well. And now they're meeting again here in Sagittarius, saying like, okay, well, what it is that we need to reevaluate since our last conjunction, because we're moving into this new direction and there's something holding us back. So this is Wednesday night, Thursday morning. On Thursday, Mars is going to make a square to Neptune. Mars, the ruler of the North Node. Then Thursday night, Friday morning, depending where you are in the world, Venus is going to make a last sextile to Pluto. As we know, all the personal planets are going to be conjuncting Pluto in February, most of them. So that is like, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Sun before that on the 20th of January, still in the sign of Capricorn, as I keep saying, 29 degrees 59 minutes. So Venus making a sextile to Pluto. This is the last sextile, the last like a waning crescent, right? Waning crescent. So it's coming towards the end of the cycle, which means that we want to break free. We want to break free. We want to let go of that, which no longer is going to be supporting us going towards the next cycle. And Venus being in the sign of Scorpio, as I mentioned, is ruled by Pluto. So this is happening Thursday night, Friday morning, depending where you are in the world. By that stage, actually just before that, Moon is moving into the sign of Leo. And Venus on Friday, after her sextile to Pluto, on Friday, Venus will move into the sign of Sagittarius, where she will remain until January 23rd. And that's when she will move into the sign of Capricorn, right on time for the full moon in Leo, which is taking place on the 25th. So yeah, Venus moving into the sign of Sagittarius on Friday. And then on Saturday, coming from Saturday to Sunday, depending again where you are in the world, 30th or 31st, Jupiter is going to station direct. So Jupiter, well, the last personal planet, well, kind of like outer planet, right? It's not as personal as Mercury, Venus, and Mars. But Jupiter, our belief system, is going to finally station direct on almost the last day of the year, depending where you are in the world, on a 5 degrees, 35 minutes of Taurus, right in conjunction with my sun again. And we're going to enter the new year with Jupiter direct, thankfully. And like I said, this is the last planet before Uranus. Uranus, as the outer generational planet, is the very last planet that's going to station direct, and that will be at the end of January. Then on Sunday, as I already mentioned, Moon will move into the sign of Virgo. We ending this year and beginning 2024 with Moon in a sign of Virgo. What is this telling us? There will be a lot of learning and adjusting and hero journey experiences taking place in 2024, because Moon is in the sign of Virgo, and it's a lot of flexibility that's going to be required because it's the sign of Virgo. It's the sign in which Mars was when the North Node moved into the sign of Aries and Mars became the ruler. And we know that Mercury took a good long retrograde in Virgo as well. So Sunday to Monday, which is the last day of this year and first day of the next year, Venus will square Saturn from the sign of Sagittarius to the sign of Pisces, and that will be on 3 degrees 18 minutes. And then, as I mentioned, on the first day of the new year, 1st of January 2024, Mercury will station direct on 22 degrees and 11 minutes, 2 to 11. All these ascended masters, all these angelic frequency, master number frequencies. So here we got it. So these are all the main major aspects. Of course, there are things happening with the asteroids and stuff as usual. But as usual, I also mentioned this is not I don't work with asteroids. So this is all I got for you guys. And now we can dive into the full moon in Cancer. As I said, I will want to briefly speak about the new moon in Cancer because there is something which is very interesting to observe, and my geeky mind can't help itself. So full moon in Cancer taking place on, as I mentioned, depending on your location, it's either on the 26th of December, Boxing Day night, or on the 27th morning, or if you are Australia, New Zealand, then it's well into 27th of December. So for us here in Mexico, if my calculations are correct, because as I said, I have to change my ephemeris from Bulgarian time until this time, and my math doesn't always work perfectly. From the calculations I'm getting, it's 6:33 p.m., which is interesting. 6:33 is 6:33 p.m. Mexican time. I think that's the central zone, right? And that's 4 degrees and 58 minutes of Cancer. And like I mentioned, there will be a lot of things happening at the same time. But just to remind everyone, the new moon in Cancer took place on July 17th and at the 24 degrees 56 minutes of Cancer. And that's 6 and that's 11, frequency 11 again coming up. So 11 and 6, that's 7 and that's 8. Wow, interesting. 17 and 1 and 7 is 8. So that's interesting. And this one is 9 and 8 is 17, is another 7, is another 8. This is very interesting. Let me just recount it so I'm not talking porkies here. But yeah, 24:56 comes to number 17, which is 8. And 4 degrees 58 minutes, 4 and 5 is 9. Plus 7 is 17, that's 8. So isn't this interesting, guys? Both new moon in Cancer and full moon in Cancer are adding up to number 8. And we are just about to enter into the number 8, 2024, which is numerological number 8, the number of abundance, prosperity, magnification, and whatever it touches, it will magnify. It's Jupiter and Saturn. So on a new moon in Cancer, the one thing, I mean, there are a lot of things that we could be talking about, but they are not as relevant. However, the most important thing I want to mention is that it was opposed by Pluto. It was opposed by Pluto. Pluto at the time was retrograde, of course, back in a Capricorn. So Pluto retrograde was opposing that new moon in Cancer, which said that there is a balance that had to be created. So what have we learned in the past 5 months, kind of like 5.5, not fully 6, because it was the July. What did we learn during this period of time that now we can put into practice, because it's a illumination, because it's a full moon? What did we learn that might help us to establish a balance with regards to who we were and who we are becoming? Or actually, we might realize that we are completely different people now, 6 months later, because as we know, right after the new moon in Cancer on July 17th, this year, 2023, the nodes shifted. So actually, during the new moon in Cancer, the nodes were on a 0 degrees and 1 minute of Taurus, Scorpio. So Pluto was squaring the nodes, and the resolution node was still in a sign of Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. And Pluto was the one opposing the lunation, which was saying there is something that needs to be balanced with regards to who do you think you are and who you really are, right? And the other very interesting thing to mention, Mars was also in opposition with Saturn from the sign of Virgo, and Venus was still in a sign of Leo. But actually the thing that really took my attention was that all the planets that are direct at the moment were retrograde, and I'm talking about the outer planets. So Pluto, Saturn, Neptune was retrograde. However, Mercury, that is retrograde now, was direct. Jupiter, Uranus, and Chiron, that are still retrograde for this full moon in Cancer, were direct at the time. So things are opposed. Things are opposed, like the opposition to Pluto, yeah? Things are opposite. So the planets that were retrograde at the time now are direct. So what did we learn from Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde that help us to reevaluate our meaning, our sense of empowerment, who is the authority, all these kind of things. And Jupiter, Uranus, and Chiron that are retrograde now, that are still helping us to reevaluate what is the truth, where is the wounding, where are we afraid to step into the unknown, and why? Because of the story, because Jupiter retrograde, right? And also Uranus, what is still holding us back from feeling free, sovereign, and able to be individuated and do what actually makes you happy, be authentic, because Aquarius and Leo are in opposition, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So this is something which I really wanted to mention, because I think it plays a very important role during this full moon in Cancer. The fact that new moon in Cancer was opposed by Pluto, this is before I even knew that it was adding up to number 8, which is in Tarot, the strength card, right? So opposition to Pluto, new moon in Cancer, node still in the sign of Taurus and Scorpio, so resolution node was in Scorpio. And all the planets that at the moment are retrograde were direct, and the planets, this is not like every single planet, but I mean these big planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Sorry, I have to straighten my legs because they're going to sleep. And Mercury as our cognitive function was direct, and now is retrograde. Okay, let's move on to the full moon in Cancer that takes us to the present moment of time. So again, everything that I already named that is taking place this week, it's as aspects, it's being present during this full moon in Cancer, as it always is, because opposition, square, conjunction, from evolutionary astrology perspective, we allow 10 degrees, each way. So these aspects are taking some time, depending which one, because of course Mercury moves faster than the rest. So anyway, the full moon, well, I mean, from the side of the sun is still in a conjunction with Mercury and Mars, and of course the exact conjunction between Mercury and Mars will happen one day after, so it will happen right after the full moon. So Mercury and Mars at the moment being both behind the sun is a closing phase. They are both during the time of the full moon in Cancer in the sign of Sagittarius. We are closing stories, closing belief system, and this is something which I'm going to share in my personal application of astrology, which I'll be recording this weekend. There are so many things coming up for us, things that we might have been even unaware of. It took place for me, it took place for my friends, like things that we just been automatically doing, saying, repeating, because we haven't even questioned them. And now with Mars, Mercury conjunction, and Mercury being retrograde, and the last time they had conjunction was in Scorpio, right after full moon in Taurus. Taurus, who are you? Jupiter is in Taurus, it's reevaluating these stories, right? And we already had 2 trines between Mercury and Jupiter. There'll be one more coming up. There will be one more coming up. So Mercury now being retrograde is working really hard to help us reevaluate, identify, redo, rewrite, all these kind of like introspect, because retrograde planets always pushes us to go inwards. To do some work on this and ask questions, especially with Mercury being retrograde, ask yourself the questions. And this being in a closing phase to Sun, and Sun is in Capricorn on 4 degrees, Sun is now shining on our matrix. Capricorn, the structure of your reality, what makes you feel safe and secure because of the external environment, right? Like your home, your job, all these things that create the external sense of safety and security, because Cancer is your internal world, is your internal emotional safety and security. So Moon being in a sign of Cancer and being actually in a trine with Jupiter is making a trine to Moon, while of course is making the sextile to Moon. It's making a trine to Sun and sextile to Moon because they are in opposition. So I guess we can say it's sextiling the full moon because of the moon, but it is making a trine to Sun because the exact trine between Sun and Jupiter is going to happen the day later. Like I said, Wednesday is a packed day. It's a lot of things happening on Wednesday, the following day. So anyway, going back to this, Jupiter as the ruler of Sagittarius, which is where Mars, the ruler of the North Node, the evolutionary potential, that's where Mars is. So Jupiter as the ruler is making a positive aspect to both Sun and the Moon, therefore making a positive aspect of this full moon in Cancer. So what is this technically saying to me? This entire chart, of course, Venus is making a trine to Neptune, as I mentioned, that is, when is it happening exactly? Venus trine to Neptune. Oh my God, where is it? Well, I know it's this week. Oh, Monday. Okay, we enter in the week. Yes, Monday Venus is trining to Neptune, so just before. So looking at all of this, Venus as the ruler of the South Node, making a trine to Neptune, Mars as the ruler of the, North Node. It's not quite making a trine to Jupiter, but the Sun is. Jupiter is making the trine to Sun. All that said, what is this trying to, in my mind, help us understand is who were you in July 2023 when the nodes shift? Because while the nodes were in Taurus and Scorpio since January 2022 until this summer, as I keep reminding everyone, that was the opportunity for us to discover what really matters to you, what holds a value for you. Is it still in alignment with who you are? Are you being valued by the external environment the same way as you value yourself, or does something needs to change with regards to that when you start valuing yourself more and the environment doesn't do that, do we actually just accept that, or do we put boundaries, whatever it is? And now with the North Node being in Aries, which is all about self-discovery, all about going in a new direction, all about leadership qualities, and just like, I don't know where is this gonna go, but I have this instinctual desire and I need to go and follow it because there is a purpose there, right? So obviously with Mars being in a sign of Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter's trining the sun and sextiling the moon, this full moon, it's saying that there is this big horizon opening up for us. And in order to go in this direction, perhaps you need to acknowledge that maybe the version of yourself that you were, it's not who you are anymore, because there is an opposition. That's what I mean, is the balancing act. The new moon in Cancer was in opposition with Pluto. There is a balancing act that is taking place. And now if you go just back to the, like the easy definitions of what is Cancer, like, yes, like from the traditional astrology point of view, it's like the, the home, the family, the safety and security. But that is what made you, especially in your early upbringing, that's what made you who you are. It formed you, it molded you into the definition of yourself that maybe people are still, even now believing that, oh yeah, this is me, I'm from this country, this is my name, this is my mother, this is my father, this is where I went to school. All these labels, because Cancer also represents our ego identity, all these identifications. Who are you? Who are you? And now there is no coincidence that during the time of the new moon in Cancer, the nodes were just hanging on the last minute of Taurus and Scorpio before they moved forward, because they say, okay, it was the new moon, which means that yes, we are seeing something new, something we can't see. But at the same time, in order to get there, we need to acknowledge what it is that is holding us back, with the last minute in Scorpio, right? South Node. So what did we realize in this last 6 months, during which time the planets that were retrograde at the time, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Uranus wasn't yet, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, all retrograde during this time, and now they all direct. What did we learn? This retrograde period, what did it help us to understand about ourselves? So I know for many people, these past 6 months might have been very challenging. It might have been even more destabilizing because, as Pluto is nearing its last stint in the sign of Capricorn, things are going to shift rapidly, especially from next year onwards, especially from the end of next year. I mean, Pluto will be in Aquarius for quite a while next year. So, majority of the year really is going to be in Capricorn only for 10 weeks, I think, 2.5 months. So so majority of year, next year, Pluto is already in a sign of Aquarius. We're already going forward with this energy. And in order to be able to, I don't want to say survive because that's the wrong word to use. But in order to be able to feel emotionally safe and secure and stable, this Cancer Capricorn, you need to trust yourself. And the only way you're going to trust yourself is to know who you are. And we all have limitations. There is always an opportunity for expansion, right? Sagittarius, expansion, freedom. And also they always have a choice. The moon in a sign of Gemini during Christmas time, and then in a sign of Virgo, which, is ending this year and starting a new one. There will be a lot of adjustments. So with this full moon in Cancer, what this full moon in Cancer is really trying to show us, because it's a full moon, is the illumination, is that who are you becoming when you really tune into yourself? Because Cancer is your inner world, is this deep inner world, this intimate world, of your vastness, because Cancer makes a trine to Scorpio and Neptune, and is this unlimited potential of who you are, because you are a divine being having a human experience, and you can choose whatever you want it to be, even though there are belief system and our ego identity, Cancer, the other aspect of is trying to make us feel safe and secure by saying, no, we're not going that way because, this is what happened last time we went that way, or this is what happened to your brother or your friend or whatever. Yeah. So there are all these things, this war, this opposition, this war between yourself and yourself, which is saying that, perhaps I feel that I want to go and expand. I want to go in this new direction. And then there is this but let's just stay safe and secure and stay in this, better the devil, better the comfort zone and all that kind of things. But Mercury retrograde, Jupiter still retrograde at the time of this full moon. This Chiron still retrograde is saying, but let's reevaluate that. Because now you have more clarity than you did 6 months ago. 6 months ago, 5 and something, 5 months and 10 days. At the time of the new moon in Cancer, You didn't know because you couldn't see, because it was a new moon, right? And the nodes not yet moved into the sign of Aries and Libra. There were things in July that we didn't even know, we couldn't even foresee at that time, because it wasn't for us to see at that time. It wasn't the right time for us to be aware of those dynamics. But then throughout the 5 months after, and everything that took place, the first eclipse in Libra, the last eclipse in Taurus, all these kind of things, we learned something. We understood something about ourselves. If nothing else, it was at least potentially what we don't want, what we don't want to keep experiencing, re-experiencing, and even what we might not want to be part of our identity, part of our story anymore. So with this full moon, it's like, who are you becoming? From July until now, what are the changes that you are observing in your life that you can now see? You couldn't see them before, but now you can see, because it's also, as I said, the nodes, Mars, as the rule of the North Node, it's trining the North Node. So it's saying, okay, there are all these horizons to explore. Let's go after them. With the conjunction with Mercury, we are reevaluating our options and the belief system that is attached to it, which might be preventing us from going after that option. But with the trine to North Node and Mars making a trine to North Node, and actually Mercury is still Mercury is trining the North Node too. Not exactly, but it is trining. It's going to make an exact trine, I believe, before it stations direct, so in January, early January. But it's going to station direct on 22 degrees 11 minutes. Okay, so it's not going to make an exact trine to the North Node, but it's trining the North Node already. Either way, both Mars, Mercury, Sun is a little bit far, but if we count it as that whole mess, it's still trining the North Node. And like I said, Jupiter is trining Sun and trining the South Node, trining the Moon in Cancer. So there is a lot of support being offered to us. The only thing that might be stopping us from, all of this is this fear, this insecurity, and the fear to go after something that would challenge our ego and who we were. Because, Pluto is obviously still squaring the nodes, but Neptune is squaring... Oh yeah, Neptune is squaring Mars. Okay, this is what I'm tapping into, because I'm like, there must be a square. There must be some very profound square that I'm tapping into here, which is the resistance. And is that Mars square to Neptune. Yeah, the last quarter square. Okay, so yeah, so this is the energy, because I literally feel this energy of resistance. Like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. This is who I am. This is what I've always been and stuff. And I really feel that energy here. And I'm like, okay, why do I feel this energy? Where is the square here? And then I can see like, okay, yes, it's this one. And in a sense, Neptune is still squaring Moon, even though it's a white orb, but it is still in action. Yeah, it's still in action. Neptune is still squaring it. So either way, there are some squares in action here, and that is the past. That is the past, which is this Neptune in Pisces, that it did hold a meaning before. But it just doesn't hold a meaning anymore, because Saturn, as the ruler of Capricorn, where Sun is now, as I said, there is this not mutual thing, but Saturn is the ruler of Sun, and Sun is in Capricorn, and they had the sextile 2 days before that. Saturn is in Pisces. So it's the end of it. It's the end of it. This is literally the last year where we had Pluto in Capricorn for still, I would say most of the time, because next year Pluto is going to be mostly in Aquarius. So this was the last year. That's why next year, being the year number 8, and in Tarot that is the strength, like we need to find the strength within. So with this full moon in Cancer, it's saying that well, you need to see who you really are. And it's not these old stories, it's not these old things that we are attached to, because they are part of it, but that's not who you are. You are not just all your identities, you are not just all these labels, you are much more than that. This is just the costume, this is just the roles that we are experiencing this reality through, and that can always change. I mean, Mars being in a sign of Sagittarius is a mutable sign, so there is still that mutable energy being present, with Mercury also being back in a sign of Sagittarius, and of course Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces, which is the end, is the sign of the end, but it's again mutable energy, because when something ends, something new will begin. Always, because that's why it's a wheel, it goes in circles. So nothing will ever end, and there will be nothing like there is no replacement for it. It's just the end, and that's it, like the end of the story. But again, this depends on your belief system. It depends what you believe. What is your orientation towards life? Because I know some people still believe that when we die, that's it. That's it. You're done. Like you just exit this body. Even though I don't know what they think that is going to happen with that something that exits the body. But either way, I know that there are still people that believe that. And then, of course, would make this reality very scary, because it's like, okay, and then what? Then we only have this one shot. And still, we don't treat it in a way that potentially we would if we thought that the time is limiting, the time, we don't know how much time there is, we don't know how much time we have, each of us. So anyway, going back to this full moon in Cancer, which I don't even want to keep looking at the transits, because Mercury is retrograde and my brain is not working in this way, in a logical way. But the energy I'm tapping into, purely just thinking about the energy I'm tapping into here without looking at the chart and all the astrology, is literally this: who are you becoming, and what is the version of yourself that now you can see clearer than you did 6 months ago, because that was the time when this energy was being conceived, the new moon, and birthed, and also with the nodes shortly after moving into the sign of Aries and Libra. And this is something that's going to be present for the entire 2024. The nodes are not going to move out of Libra and Aries until January 2025. So this entire year 8, the year of strength, is going to be under the influence of the nodes going even deeper into the sign of Libra and Aries, right? So in order to go in this new direction, especially with the Mars trying the North Node, literally like a day and a half before this full moon, we need to broaden our horizons. We need to start considering different stories, different versions of the truth. Also with the conjunction between Mars and Mercury that's taking place like a night after, like Wednesday night, Thursday morning, depending where you are in the world. Again, it's happening like right after. With Mercury being retrograde, Jupiter being retrograde, Mercury being in Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, there is a deep reevaluation, because when you change, everything changes. When the belief system you hold about your reality changes, you have to change. It's like everything is connected. If that's what you gather information, and that might open up a whole new world for you, like what took place for me when I discovered astrology, and now I'm coming across different resources of information, and that just making my world wider and wider, and helping me understand how little I really know, how really little I understand, right? And this is not in the like a self-critical deprivating mode. It's like, well, yeah, there is so much more to know, so much more to learn. So anyway, that beside the point. When you gather information and your expansion, your perception of reality expands, and you start changing, your environment has to change. It cannot remain the same, because you will change your frequency, and therefore even the people around you, they will either change or they will disappear. They will no longer be on the same frequency, and you will no longer be able to find you will not be able to tune into the same station, because there might be a vibrational frequency mismatch. So with this full moon in Cancer, I think many more people, even through situations that are potentially scary or frightening or uncomfortable, might be questioning who they are and what is this reality we living in and what is the whole point of everything. Just like literally, even if they might not have a full clarity with regards to like, okay, what is the final thing, because it's still just the, opposition, it's the middle of the cycle, but they're starting to see things they haven't seen before. And the awareness, as I mentioned in my previous video, is the beginning. The awareness is the first step, is the first step toward change. Because once we are aware, once you know, you cannot unknow, unless somebody bang you on the head and you have amnesia and like then again that comes into question, like, yeah, how many of us have amnesia here? Like, I mean, we all were born with that, right? Because we forgot who we really are and where we came from, and the world was under the spell, but it's all now dissolving with Saturn in Pisces. There are glitches in Matrix, the spell is dissolving. But more and more people are starting to understand, whether on an internal or external level, that there are massive shifts happening, and that is shaking the foundation of the safety and security in our reality that we were attached to, that made us feel that, oh yeah, this world is steady, it's solid, it's Capricorn, right? It's Capricorn and Cancer, and this is how it's been, and this is how it's always gonna be. I'm just gonna go to work, do my part, because that's what everybody's doing, right? But this is not the case anymore. More and more people are actually entering this path of self-discovery and this process of questioning and finding out things that they didn't know before. And then, like I said, once you start learning, the whole thing starts widening up and opening up, and you go like, oh my God, there's so much to learn. I thought I knew what I needed to know, like when you finish school or college or whatever, and you say, okay, I don't need to know anything more, which is, comes to question, like, how much of the really important stuff do we learn at school? But that's for another conversation. But things start widening up, the horizons start widening, and this is what I feel, that this is the process. This is the process that we are at. The only thing that, might be causing this feeling of stuckness is those two squares. Are we still buying into the story, and do we give them a meaning? And do we still externalize our power? The Pluto to the south node and the Neptune and Mars, the squares. And this is what's creating this tension that wants to erupt, because it's like we have to move forward. We have to move forward. There is this brand new cycle of Pluto in Aquarius that is starting up for us. We already had a little taster for 3 months. I think it was 3 months, right? 2.5 months, when Pluto was in the sign of Aquarius this year. And that process is going to start widening. This energy is going to start streaming through even faster, because the gap is going to be open wider. And this is what this full moon in Cancer is trying to illuminate, that you are actually becoming someone different, because that identity you were attached to, that thing that you thought, this is who I am, that is not who you are. That was just some labels. It was part of your experience, but it's not the entirety of who you are. Think beyond, go beyond, this Jupiter making a trine to Sun and sextile in the Moon, saying we going beyond, because we building a new Earth, we building a new reality, new structure, new matrix, new world for ourselves. But in order for that to take place, you need to understand who you really are, which is not just your labels and this human body, and that's it. That's part of it. It's part of this experience, but that's not who you are. And that's what many people feel limited by, that they feel like, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. I don't have much power. I am not in politics or something. But the collective is made of each and every single one of us. So if all these people have this realization, like one after the other, of course, like things are not just going to happen in one instant moment for everyone, because we are all where we need to be. We are all in a different part of our journey and experiencing what we need to experience. And each time you pass the lesson, integrate the lesson, you move to the next level, and it's never ending. It just like keeps going on. And it's not like one level is better than another. It's just different, right? It's like playing a different game, because we choose our timeline, we choose our experience that we are having. So with this full moon in Cancer and everything that's going on there, it's helping us to see that, to see who are you becoming and where you heading. And like I said, it's still about the stories, because Mars, the ruler of the North Node, and Mercury are in Sagittarius, and Mercury is retrograde. So it's bringing up more and more of these themes, topics, perceptions, limited belief systems, because Jupiter is still retrograde also until the end of the year. Like I mentioned, Chiron is still retrograde during this lunation, and that's actually something I forgot to mention during the new moon in Sagittarius. Chiron was trining it also, not just the North Node, Chiron. And Chiron is our wounded healer. It's something that we are all healing and integrating, and it's in a closing phase with the North Node until February, the end of February, when they have conjunction. So that's why things are ending, they're closing, because there are all these topics that are coming up that lost meaning and no longer are supporting us, that just become obsolete. They become obsolete. Like the way the world is changing at this accelerated race, if we try to hold on to the past, which of course we take the lesson and give it the love, the thank you for this experience, it taught me so much, and we don't go disregarding like, oh, I wish this never happened, right? Because many things that do happen, well, I mean, everything has a meaning, everything has a purpose. So everything that ever happened was to help us to understand something, was to teach us something. So having the awareness of that, of this understanding that, okay, even all these identities and labels that we've been attached to, it all held a meaning, it all had a meaning, but observing, like, being already energetically in 2024, kind of, observing where we're heading and feeling these energies, tapping into these energies, and I'm sure majority of people are aware of these energies of massive shift, massive change that's coming, which we don't even know what is going to look like or how that's going to impact us on an individual or collective level, but we know it's coming. We know it's inevitable, it's coming. So can you stay the version of yourself that you were, knowing or intuiting that this is where we're heading towards? And this is what this full moon, this is the role of this full moon, as far as I'm concerned, having this positive aspect from Jupiter. And like I said, Mars making a trine to North Node and a square to Neptune and all these other things that's going on, right? Like Saturn just, had a sextile with Sun, and, Venus Venus is just about to have her sextile with Pluto, but it's already active. Oh yeah, and Pluto is squaring Jupiter too. Out of sign, but still, it's a square. Pluto is squaring Jupiter too, and this is the first quarter square. Crisis in action. Crisis in action. Again, what do we need to adjust with the way we perceiving reality? And yourself, because Taurus, yourself, your abilities. You are not just nobody that can make no difference. This is a story. This is the story we are being collectively fed in order to keep us in line, to make us controllable. Because the South Node is pointing to Libra. What were you being told by the other, whoever the other is? And then it was the collective agreement. We all will just keep repeating the same story, so it's easier for people to not question it because everybody's doing that, right? But like I keep saying in my previous videos, how many people are really happy? How many people look at the state of the world and the state of nature and ourselves, the state of human collective and our relationships and stuff, which for some people, like they've never probably felt more disconnected than ever, from themselves and one another. So when we look at all these things that create our matrix, our human experience over here, like, how many people say like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to change nothing. I mean, it's all perfect, right? I mean, maybe some people are having this experience, but majority people I'm pretty sure would say like, yeah, I wish there was no war in the world. I wish there was no suffering. I wish there was no hunger. I wish that I had more time. I had more time to spend with my children, or, doing things that I want to do and stuff. So this is where all these identities come into question. Do you want to keep being this version of yourself, this identity that you are attached to, I'm attached to, anyone is attached to, based on these stories and programs that we are being projected onto us and fed into? Is it what is going to make us happy and thriving and allow us to follow our purpose and destiny in the year 8? which is the strength card, which is Leo, which represents the purpose and destiny in astrology, your creative self-actualization, is this old identity, this what we, bought into, that this is all that you are, is this going to allow you to thrive in these upcoming times? So once again, I really feel I'm just going in circles, talking about the same thing. Probably maybe some of you already switched off long time ago, but this is what I feel, especially when I compare the chart to the new moon in Cancer, which was in opposition with Pluto, that said that there is something that we need to balance, something that we had to balance. And Jupiter at the time was, before its retrograde, it was already coming into the closer conjunction to Uranus than it is now, and it was of course in a new phase conjunction with the North Node. They only just had a conjunction a short while before that. So we starting all a new story, which is the story of everything. It's only a story, and in this new story you are becoming a new version of yourself. And it's not even you becoming it, because you already are that. You are just uncovering that, because that is already within you, because you are born with the seed. You are born with the seed that is determining the things that you like, the things that you don't like your favorite food, your favorite color. It's all this Leo. And I mean, it's no coincidence that Mars is going to retrograde in 2024. At the end of 2024, Mars is going to station retrograde in Leo, in the sign of Leo, which is where Venus, as the ruler, the old ruler of the North Node and the new ruler of the South Node, that's where Venus retrograded this past summer, in the sign of Leo. And that's where I was tapping into the energy of the mistaken identity. That which you believe you are and what you believed was your purpose based on that which you believed you were, Cancer before, before Leo. Is that really who you are? And is that really the purpose that makes you feel like happy and feeling self-actualized, and that you can be truly yourself and be seen for who you are and validated because you validate yourself? It's all an internal process. It's from as within, so without. It starts from within. And Cancer is a very intuitive sign. It's very internal. It's feminine. Also, Sun being a sign of Capricorn is very feminine. So I feel with now ending the year with this is the last moon of this year, and it gives us the full illumination of Cancer. Where did we come from? Ancestors, collective, history, his story, which in many cases is not even the real story, right? It's just his story. Somebody wrote it. Anyway, but don't want to go into that rabbit hole. We are ending this year with full moon in Cancer for a reason. And the reason is for you to really start introspecting and feeling into, tuning into who you really are. And that is a divine being having a human experience with unlimited amount of options and choices, because they're all going to take you somewhere. They're all going to give us an experience. But when people feel disempowered and they feel that, no, you don't understand, there is somebody else who is in charge of my life, whether it's my husband or my boss or my mother or someone else, then yes, that's a very disempowering place to be, because you feel that you will always depend on that someone else external of you to determine your future and your purpose. And that's why Pluto, it's ending its cycle in Capricorn with the message of its 15 years transit saying, Saturn is in Pisces. This has lost meaning. And Sun, as I mentioned, is sextiling Saturn during this already. I mean, the exact sextile took place 2 days before, but it's still in action. It's still active. So Saturn is sextiling Sun and trining the moon. Saturn is trining the moon. Saturn, the ruler of the sun, is trining the moon in Cancer, which is saying you are the creator of your reality. You decide. But if you don't feel connected to yourself, Cancer, to your own inner world, if you don't trust yourself, which is also this Taurus, self-trust, trust in your abilities, capabilities, that you can survive, you can make it, because look at you. If you're listening to this, if you're still listening, but even if you're not, hopefully energetically you're feeling this. If you made it this far, wherever you're at in your life, you survived. you know, and I'm sure there were very challenging, difficult times before this one that you are at right now, but you made it, which means that that something, the Taurus, is within you, that's something that keeps you going. But we might not see it, we might not believe it, because Jupiter is still retrograde. It's making you to reevaluate, like rethink this story, rethink it. Mars is in Sagittarius, pointing to the North Node. There is this whole new world that is being created at the moment. We can't necessarily see all of it, but it's being created, you know, that's still that in conjunction, right? We still have, yeah, still just about in conjunction between Neptune, South Node, and Uranus. Yeah, with Venus it's already moved. Yeah. Is there any other in conjunction? I can't count that quickly. I don't have it on this chart, but I'm sure there are other in conjunction. But that this one is still present. You know, the one pointing to the South Node. We can't necessarily see it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. It just hasn't manifested yet. And with Saturn in Pisces, it's saying you need to take a responsibility to find the meaning and purpose of your life, because you're creating it. So with the full moon in Cancer, who are you becoming? What identity label you have to let go of in order to be able to open these new horizons that you want to step into, to have this new experience that you maybe never had before, which requires us to go into the unknown. Because, as I mentioned before in my videos, everything that is in the known you already experience. So if you are not experiencing it, it's in the unknown, and that's where we head in. And that was the message of Chiron trying to the new moon in Sagittarius. So anyway, guys, super long video again, so I'm gonna leave it at this. If I was repeating myself too much and didn't make any sense, I do apologize. It is Mercury retrograde and I always feel it, which might be just a story, but it is showing up. So I will be releasing a practical application of astrology over the weekend. I don't know which day exactly, very likely on Sunday, because I'm working until Sunday. Sunday is my first day off, and I'm taking a week off when I won't be doing any readings. So I'll see what else will come up. There are themes and topics brewing under the surface. And also I want to tell everyone that I will be giving a special discounted offer, like discounted prices for my readings on my website. So that will be active from 24th until January 1st. So you can find it on my website, which is moonlightsoul369.com from December 24th. So if you would like to book yourself a reading or gift it to someone else to support you going through 2024, then that's where you find the information. And as always, I always recommend to start with natal chart. So if you haven't had your natal chart read by me or any other evolutionary astrologer, because evolutionary astrology is very different from traditional astrology, the interpretation of your chart. So if you don't have an understanding of your natal chart from evolutionary astrology perspective, then that's the starting point, because everything else just builds up on it layer over layer. So this is what's coming up, and I will mention it again in my practical application of astrology. But I wish everybody beautiful holidays, or whatever you're celebrating, Christmas or whatever. And yeah, I'll speak to you again soon before New Year for sure. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you very much for listening. If you do like, subscribe, and yeah, if you want, comment to support my channel, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye everyone.